So, Charlie, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Charlie. I'm 21 years old and I am a woman.
A woman. Okay. What is schizophrenia to you? Can you please start the answer with the question? So, for example, schizophrenia for me is...
Schizophrenia for me is a life-changing condition that can affect my everyday.
Okay. So, if you had to describe a picture for schizophrenia, how would you describe that picture?
The picture would be more so like a normal world, but there's more added to it.
And what would you say would be added to that world?
My own creations. It would be maybe a dog.
A dog?
Yeah, it would be an animal or an extra person who other people couldn't see, but I could.
Okay. So, if other than a dog, would you describe schizophrenia like a person, and if so, how?
Yes, I'd definitely describe it as a person, because it's more so that there's someone else in the room that wouldn't be there to other people.
Okay. Could you describe the moment that you were first diagnosed with schizophrenia?
It was nice to be diagnosed with schizophrenia because it was more so of like a clarity in myself. I knew why I was experiencing different things that other people wouldn't.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel very alone at first, but now I've come more to terms with it.
Come to terms how?
Because I've just accepted it's part of what it is, part of me now, and it's just how I have to go with my life now.
And could you describe your life before you were diagnosed with schizophrenia?
My life before schizophrenia was, well, I've always been different. I've always enjoyed things that other people maybe wouldn't have, maybe childish things that I would find comfort in that other people maybe wouldn't. But it was more of a different life compared to others.
And yeah, could you describe your life after schizophrenia now?
It's more of an understanding in myself now. I understand why I see things, why I hear things, why I can get a little bit more paranoid than others.
And could you describe symptoms you've experienced? Like, how did they make you feel when you have these symptoms?
I can sometimes feel very alone, very scared, very sad.
And could you describe the worst time you can remember dealing with schizophrenia?
It would be when my mood is very, very low. I would hear voices a lot more than usual, and I would definitely see things in the room that made me jump. Like I see something called shadow people, where it's like a person, but they're just completely black, and that's really scary to see.
Could you describe the shadow people more?
Yeah, they are. It'd be a normal person like me and you, but it'd have no features, nothing like that. It would literally just be like a black shadow. That's why they're called shadow people. And they can kind of just turn up as and when they want. And if you're not expecting it, it can make you jump, or it can make you feel very scared. You feel very threatened.
Have you had that recently or in the past?
Yeah, I've had it recently in the past. I suffer with it weekly.
And could you describe if there was a time of the day or night that it appears more often in schizophrenia?
I'd say it appears more in the day, because normally I'm by myself a lot in the day, and obviously that's when the voices feel like they can talk to me because, oh, hey, you're alone.
And other than the night?
The night is more when hallucinations come around.
Hallucinations. Could you describe to me about them?
Hallucinations are something that's not there for other people, so we call them positive symptoms, which means it adds to your life. So it would add a body in the room Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I know you've said this already, but do you experience voices and hallucinations? If so, how would you describe them, and how do they make you feel?
I experience both voices and hallucinations. Some of them are my friends. I have one of a young boy who's a shadow person. He's like my friend, really. But others can be very distressing.
Distressing how?
Because it makes you feel scared. It makes you feel alone. And it makes you feel like, oh, well, I'm so different. I see these things that other people don't.
And could you describe how it feels hearing the voices and how you would describe each voice?
When I first started experiencing it, it was very bizarre. It was like, well, where is this person? Like, I can hear them, but I can't see them. But now it's more so that it's like an everyday life, and obviously I see my psychiatrist and they've given me an understanding of what each one is. And then the different voices, it can be young people, elderly people, people my age, men, women, children, it can be anything like that.
And are they reoccurring characters?
Yes.
Could you describe more of these characters?
Yeah.
More open.
I have Elliot, who is a man our age, so about 21, and he's quite strict and demanding. He can be a very hard person to deal with. I then have a young child, a girl who's comforting, and I have Limbo, who is the young boy who I said, and he's very much more my friend than anything else. But I do have I can have different voices throughout the day, some that aren't reoccurring, that just turn up for the day, and they're horrible.
Would you say they're your favourites of all of the voices, the ones you get along with?
Limbo is, yeah, he's my child.
And do you have your least favourites?
I have Elliot, who is obviously a man our age, and he's just very demanding, very, very horrible, makes me feel bad about myself, makes me feel very threatened.
And so you've said how old they are. So with Elliot being our age, how old would the others be?
Limbo's probably, I'd say he's about 7 or 8, no older than that, because when I see him, he's small. So, but he used to follow me around and he was there for a comfort when I was scared.
And can you describe an interaction with the voices you hear?
I will sometimes, when it's Elliot, I'll tell him to go away, or there's been times where I hallucinate clowns, which is my scariest thing. I'm most scared in my life of clowns, and I see Pennywise the clown from the film It, and sometimes it will be very distressing to have an interaction because I'm so scared of clowns. So when there's one's coming in the room, I'm scared.
And can you describe a moment that they were interrupting something important?
It could be that when I used to work, I would be serving a customer and I'd see a shadow person behind the customer, which would obviously make me jump. Or it would be that I'm at work and I'm just serving normal customers and I can hear the voices. So it's very hard to cope with people talking to me, and obviously my head is going as well. So it can get very, 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 busy.
Could you describe if they keep you company, these voices?
Some of them do, the nice ones do. As I said, Limbo used to keep company with me, but some of them are not the best of company.
And are they entertaining or scary?
Scary if it's the clowns.
And who would be more entertaining?
Ooh, I'd say Elliot is probably entertaining in a bad way. He says more, he demands more.
And can you describe if you've had good moments with your voices?
Yeah, with Limbo, sometimes I'll feel very alone and very scared, and I'll see Limbo and I feel a little bit more of a comfort than I would be scared.
And any bad moments with the voices?
Yes, they can. The voices can be very, very distressing and very hard to deal with.
And could you tell me if you talk to those voices?
I do when I'm alone, because otherwise I think it comes across as you're a crazy person.
And what do you say to them when you're alone? Like, do you get in a discussion?
Yeah, it can just be a normal conversation as I would have with you. And then some of them it can be, obviously I'd be telling them to go away, leave me alone.
And can you realise when the voice is a thought or a character?
I can, because sometimes with Elliot or Limbo I can see them visually, obviously in a hallucination, and then some of them will be in my head, as if I had like a group of people in around a table talking at a pub in my head.
How often do you hear the voices?
I hear them daily.
Daily as...
I hear the voices daily. It can be all throughout the day. It can be for an hour in the day, 2 hours, 5 minutes, but daily.
And how does it feel to be surrounded by them?
Sometimes it's comforting because you're not alone, but other times when I feel ill that day with my mental health, it can be very, very, very hard to cope.
And can you describe if those voices bring anything good to your life?
They do, because I can teach other people about my experiences and I can make people feel like they're not alone, which is really nice for me, and that matters to me because I know that I've felt so alone throughout it before. So I know that I can comfort people and say, it's not just you, there's many more of us out there.
What do the voices talk to you about?
It can be daily stuff, it can be, oh, you need to do the washing today. Or it can be, if they're feeling mischievous, it can be like, oh, if you take that pen and throw it, that'd be funny.
Have you ever done those actions?
I have done stuff before, yeah, like throw cups, stuff like that.
And could you describe if those voices feel real to you or not?
They do. Sometimes when I'm not quite in the right headspace to say to myself, this is my illness, this is unfortunately what my brain is orchestrated like. But then sometimes I can comfort myself and say, this is just it, unfortunately. This is what you deal with.
If you could do something with those voices, what would you do?
As in?
So, if you could either, like, change anything about it or just how to tolerate with them?
I wouldn't give schizophrenia to anyone else because I know how scary it can be. I would rather put it on my back as a shell because I unfortunately know how it's like and I wouldn't want anyone else to feel it that way. So I'd rather keep it than pass it on or make someone else have it because it can be very, very scary.
And if so, how does this affect your perception of judgment? How does it make you feel?
Sometimes with schizophrenia you can have something called paranoid thoughts, which means that you, in your own head, you develop something that isn't even happening. But to you it's so real and it's really happening. Sometimes I can be scared that someone's watching me through my window or that one of my friends is going to tell everyone about me and stuff like that. It can be very paranoid thoughts.
So with your judgment, would you say it's either positive or negative? And just to explain the judgment of schizophrenia.
My judgment of schizophrenia is that sometimes it can be really, really hard because you think something's going to happen that's not, and you've got it's such a firm belief in your head that you're like, no, this is it, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, even though it's not. So the judgment sometimes can be very off with schizophrenia.
Okay. Can you describe your coping mechanism you would develop to deal with schizophrenia?
The coping mechanisms I use is you can't let them win. You have to say to yourself, say if you want to go out that day, but your voice is saying to me, oh, if you go out, this is going to happen, something really bad's going to happen. You have to reassure yourself that this isn't real. This is just in my head. Nothing's going to go wrong if I go out. I have to do it because I can't let them win.
And could you describe any times where you weren't able to cope with schizophrenia?
There's been quite a few times I'm not able to cope, where the voices and the hallucinations will get so intense that my perception of the world just seems a little bit off balance, and it can be very, very hard to just get up out of bed because your bed feels safer than walking around.
How did you find ways of dealing with schizophrenia?
I see a specialist in psychiatry about it, and they teach me different coping mechanisms. They teach me to not listen and try have control of your life, because that is what it is you need to make sure that you have control, and you say to yourself, right, no, I'm stronger than this, I'm better than this, you can do it.
Have you taken any medication for schizophrenia, and if so, could you describe what you take and how it affects you?
I take something called quetiapine for schizophrenia, 100 milligrams, and what it is basically is it's a antipsychotic, which means it can level out the brain measures in your brain to make it all equal again, and also it's a sedative. So I take it before I go to sleep, because it can help me sleep better in the night, because that's normally when I might see something, or my voices will be like, hey, wake up, you're not going to sleep, what are you doing? So I take quetiapine to help me sleep at night, and it's, as I said, it's an antipsychotic, so it helps your brain levels equal out.
Have you ever tried any other medication, and if they were different to others?
I tried something called metrazapine, and that was the drug made you feel like a zombie. It made you feel more like you just weren't awake, you had no energy, you had no motivation. But because I was used to taking it, I was like, okay, well, this is just what I am. But then when I spoke to my psychiatry team, they were like, hey, no, we'll change it back to quetiapine, because it literally was making me like a zombie.
Can you describe how schizophrenia affects interactions with your family?
Sometimes I find it hard to go home, because at my mother's house, I've got my mum and my dad, and I've got 5 other siblings. So when I'm in a front room with my family, they're all talking. Obviously my head is talking as well. So sometimes it can just be way too many voices, way too many people around me. So I find it very hard to go home to my mum's, because it is so loud, and it's really hard to keep up with it.
The same question, but with your friends?
It's easier with my friends, because I've got friends who understand, and I've got friends who have experienced it themselves. So it is easy with my friends, because I feel like I can joke about it with them as well, which is nice.
Have you had any friends that were different, like maybe couldn't handle with schizophrenia? Not
yet, no, thank God.
And any interactions with others, like the public?
Sometimes if I catch myself talking to myself, some people turn around and be like, what the hell? But it's very much so that it doesn't faze me anymore.
And could you describe the reaction of your family when they found out that you were suffering with schizophrenia?
My family were very upset. They were gutted, but it's also my family are a very good support system. They help me as much as they can to understand and to just get on with life.
How did it make you feel when you had to tell them?
My mum was with me a lot of the way anyway, so when I was being diagnosed, my mum was always with me, and my mum was very much so very helpful in describing stuff that I maybe couldn't. So my mum was very accepting of it, and my nan as well. She's very, very accepting, because I've also got another member of my family who suffers with schizophrenia, and she basically became like his surrogate mother. Like, she was like, oh, I'll take you in, I'll care for you, it's no problem.
Can you describe how does it affect dynamics with your family?
What does that mean?
So if it's like caused any situations, or just like whether they treat differently?
Okay, I feel like some family members feel like they have to treat me like I am special in a way. Like, they have to be like, oh, like sometimes I'll see family members and they'll be like, oh, how are you? Like, are you okay? Which I don't appreciate, because it's, at the end of the day, I'm just a normal person like me or you. But they will treat me differently, or they'll be like, oh, is she okay? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've already done that. Can you describe how it affects other areas in your life, schizophrenia?
It can affect the smallest things, to going out to get my shopping, my milk and my bread. It can affect when I have to go to family meetings, or it's affected me to the point where I no longer work because I find it too difficult to work alongside hearing voices and hallucinations. But it is the goal to get back into work, to get back into society and just live a normal life.
Can you describe if you've ever felt that people treated you different because of the condition? So other than family, was there anyone else treating you different?
Sometimes when I get my medication from my pharmacy, when they read it, obviously on the box of what it is, they probably know what it's for. And sometimes like I feel like they think, oh, bloody hell, she's crazy.
Any others, like even from work?
No, I tend to not openly tell people, hey, I suffer with this, because I'd rather people just know me for me than for my condition.
Can you describe the hardest thing to cope with when you have schizophrenia?
Seeing clowns, because that is really, really terrifying, because I'm scared of clowns anyway, but then to hallucinate them, and sometimes it can be 1, 2, 3, it can be a pack of them, and they're right up in your face, or they stand at the end of your bed, or they'll stand in a corridor where you can see them, and that is really terrifying.
Could you describe any moment that you've had to ask for help, and how did you feel about it after?
When I first started hearing voices and seeing things, I was very confused. I felt very alone, and I confided in my mum about it, saying to her, hey, I hear voices, you know, I'm not well, I'm very depressed. So she got me help with the doctors, and then the doctors referred me to a mental health team, which is called Chapel Street, and they are absolutely fantastic. They really helped me. They've helped me grow as a person.
Could you describe if schizophrenia has affected your plans for the future?
It definitely has. I feel like, is it wise to have children? Because maybe sometimes I could be vulnerable in myself, which makes my children vulnerable. It's made me think, well, am I worthy of getting married? Am I worthy of this, that, the other? But it's stuff that I have to take one step at a time.
Could you describe if there are any specific moments that triggers schizophrenia?
Sometimes it can be when I'm alone, when I'm not at comfort with my boyfriend in my flat, so I know that he's there if I ever became very up in my head, psychotic, because I feel like the voices know that they can take advantage of me then. They know that, oh, hey, she's alone, let's start now, because she's by herself and she doesn't have anyone to confide in.
Could you describe any things that usually calm you to avoid these triggers?
Sometimes music helps. Music is really good for blocking it out. Sometimes I can watch a film, which is great. I put it on YouTube. Or I literally just sit there, and you've got to practice on your breathing. Breathing is very key.
Has schizophrenia interrupted any important situation? And if so, could you describe that one situation?
I think it disrupts family gatherings the most, because my head is so busy, so I do get tired very easy. So sometimes when I have to have like a big day with a family or a wedding or something like that, it can make me very, very tired. And sometimes I start to give in to what the voices are saying and stuff like that, which makes situations very hard.
And what sort of support is there for people with schizophrenia?
There's so much support. There's online groups. Facebook have groups of schizophrenia support and awareness. You can go to your doctors, who can refer you to a proper mental health psychiatric team where you can get diagnosed, you can get therapy, you can get counselling, help, anything. There is always hope for everyone.
How would you describe your identity?
I try to think that I'm just me, I'm just Charlotte, that's it. But other times I am aware of what's wrong with me and stuff like that. But you cannot, it's not I'm me and schizophrenia, you are you. And you have to remember that. You are your own person.
Is the condition part of you or detached from you?
At first it felt detached because I didn't understand what was going on. I felt very weird, crazy. You feel like you're going crazy. But as you have therapy and people talk to you and explain the condition to you, it then becomes part of you. And you just accept it for what it is.
If you could say something to a person who realised having schizophrenia for the first time, what would you tell them?
I tell them there is hope. You can beat it. Well, not beat it, but you can live with it. And there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
Could you describe if there are any good moments with schizophrenia?
Sometimes when you're alone and the nice hallucinations or voices come around, then they, as I said, they can be comfort, they can be company. Sometimes when I hallucinate animals, it's quite nice to see because I love animals. So when I see an animal, like a dog, run past me, it's really nice.
Can you describe the stigma there is towards schizophrenia, if any?
There's stigma is often that we're crazy or we're dangerous or that we're not trusted or that we're a threat, basically. But that's not it at all.
Could you describe what you do to make you feel better?
I will confide in friends, my boyfriend, my family. I'll say to them, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. And they'll give me comfort, reassurance. You're not your illness, you're not this, you're not that. You're just you. And unfortunately, you do suffer, but you are still you.
Has this condition changed you as a person, and if so, how?
It definitely has changed me as a person. It's made me feel strength that I never knew I had, because I have to have strength to carry on, and I have to be able to look after myself, still my family. Some people may feel vulnerable, but I felt strong.
How did schizophrenia affect you at work, and how did people react to it at work?
It affected me at work because as I'd be serving customers, I would be hearing voices, because at the time I wasn't very well medicated. I didn't have a strong therapist with me, but now I've got one, which is great. But it'd make you feel very busy because you'd be serving someone, your voice would be talking, and as I said, sometimes you can look around or just in your vision you'll see a shadow person or a clown, which can make you jump, it can make you scared, it can make your mood switch very quickly.
And did this affect your work, schizophrenia, and what did you want to become before you were diagnosed with schizophrenia?
It definitely affected my work. As I said, I don't work now because sometimes I find it very full on and too much. Before I stopped working, I worked as a retail assistant, but I had dreams of being, many things. I wanted to be an animal carer, or I wanted to be, mostly around animals. Because I've always loved animals. I wanted to care, I wanted to open up my own sanctuary, or maybe be a vet, or just have a rescue centre.
And what of college, as I knew you started at college, would you say it sort of affected what you were trying to get at college?
Definitely affected college, because I was halfway through my second year, and because everything got so much, the depression, the psychosis, it got so hard that I actually had to drop out of college, which was really, really hard because I felt like a failure.
And what did you drop out from?
I dropped out from character design and animation.
Would you have wanted to pursue that?
Definitely, I would have loved to have made characters for video games, anything Japanese RPGs, stuff like that.
Would you say there'd be a chance for that now, or with your new future ahead, would it have changed?
I think such a stressful and hands-full-on job, I think that I have to be aware of what my condition limits me to do. Not limits, but allows me to do. So I think I have to choose stuff that's easier on the brain and stuff like that.
Can you describe what you do to help other people with schizophrenia?
I would say to them, if they were in a moment of an episode, I'd say to them, take yourself into your own room, breathe, listen to music, and you have to remind yourself that the voices do not control you. They don't. You are in control. It may feel like you're not, but you are in control, and you will find that strength to help yourself.
Can you describe the creatures that help you with schizophrenia, and how do they help you?
As I said, I've got Limbo, who is very comforting, and sometimes when I see a clown or I'm feeling very paranoid about something, when I see Limbo, it almost as if my mood can calm down a bit, because I think to myself, right, okay, Limbo's here, he's going to protect me. Although he's only 7 or 8 years old, he's my comfort.
Do you have any pets that help you through schizophrenia, and if so, could you describe them?
I have 3 lovely ferrets, my boys, and they are absolutely fantastic, because sometimes when I feel like I can't wake up or I can't get out of bed, I know that my animals need feeding, watering, their bedding needs to be changed, their cage will need to be cleaned out, which is really good, because it's almost like I think to myself, right, I have to get up because they do depend on me, which is great. My ferrets have helped me fantastically.
Could you describe each one of them?
I've got Felix, who is a chocolate-coloured ferret. He's a fat boy. He loves his food. He's got a lovely pink nose. I've got Ghost, who is a completely white ferret, and he's lovely. He's got his own personality. He's absolutely crazy. And I've got Bear, who is a dark-coloured chocolate ferret, and he's just the sweetest thing. He's really, really lovely. And it's almost like animals know when you feel sad, because I know that when I've been in a state of mind before, they've came up and it's kind of like, oh, it's like they're caring for me.
How does schizophrenia affect your relationship with your boyfriend?
Sometimes he can find it very alarming. There's been a time before where we were in the bedroom together, just about to go to sleep, and I saw a massive shadow creature, almost like on Stranger Things. And I started screaming. I was petrified, and it obviously woke him out of his sleep. And that was quite early on in the day, so he kind of thought like, well, what the hell is going on? Like, what's in the room? But he's learnt then to calm me down, make me feel comfortable, make me feel secure, and then eventually it will simmer down and it just carries on.
Could you address who you were speaking to as you said him?
There is Cody, my other half. He's really lovely. He's 21 years old as well.
And how do you manage with schizophrenia whilst living independently?
I have to make sure that I think of myself. I think, right, today, if I'm tired that day, I think to myself, right, if we get basic housework done, that's fine. You know, I'll do the dishes, do the washing. And that, to me, I've still got up and done something for the day. I haven't been, I'm in bed all day. I've been up and I've done something. You know, which is, for me, is even if it's doing the washing or the washing up, it's still like I've done something in the day and I haven't spent the whole day moping around.
And has schizophrenia affect your path to independence? And if so, why?
Sometimes it does, because I feel very vulnerable. I feel like, oh my God, like I can't go through normal stuff in life. I can't go to the shops and go get some milk or bread because I'm scared something will happen. So sometimes I do feel like my independence is ripped away and I depend on my mum or my partner to do stuff. But I do try to remind myself, nope, we can do it.
One last final question. How would you say it represents you now, schizophrenia? And could you describe if it has made you either a better person?
I think my illness and my illnesses, they've made me a much better person because I now understand things I wouldn't have before. Like I would have thought, oh, a typical person like you, someone with a mental health problem, could have been like, oh, they're scary or they're dangerous. But now I understand people's perspective that other people wouldn't, maybe. I think to myself, oh, they're playing up today because maybe this has happened or this has happened. I have a lot more of a caring personality than I did when I did before, which is really nice because I feel like anyone can come to me with a problem and I wouldn't judge. I'd just be there and listen and give them the coping skills that I know. And I'd help them with this. I'd say to them, well, this is what I know how to deal with something. Why don't you try it?
Thank you very much, Charlie.
You're welcome.